Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Linda Sue Plants for You. Today we're gonna do some repotting video and address a few issues I'm dealing with. And one of the things I want to mention before I get started here is I was making a hanging basket for my granddaughter's friend from clippings that I took from my strawberry begonia, and those of you that follow me will remember how big and beautiful that was and still is. The thing that is really perplexing to me is I took the cuttings, I put them in fresh soil, and I put them in a room that's nowhere near the original plant, and it was growing beautifully and getting new babies. And then when I went to give it to her yesterday, as she was walking by me, I noticed something white on the leaves, and I said, hold on a second, and I took a closer look, and it was loaded with mealybugs. And I'm just mentioning this because I'm hoping somebody out there can maybe shed some light on this dilemma for me. The thing, and of course I went into a panic when I saw that, and I quickly treated it with a systemic and put it in a plastic bag, and actually if it were up to me I would have gotten rid of it because it was so loaded. But my hubby said, let's try this first. So that's what we did, and it is now in a room in our house that doesn't have any other plants, and that's where it's going to stay until I'm absolutely positive that it has no more issues. My question is, do any of you, my viewers, my followers and plant friends, have any thoughts on this? I spent that whole day going through every plant in that room, and there was not one mealybug on anything anywhere. And in fact, I have to interject here that this is only the third time in my whole entire life that I've been growing plants that I've had any kind of mealybug. So, needless to say, I was pretty panicked because where that plant was hanging was surrounded by other plants that were touching each other, but none of them have not one little tiny speck of problem. And the mother plant does not have the problem. So I have been off and on thinking about this for a day and a half, 2 days now, trying to come up with a idea of where they could have come from, and the only thing I can think of is they were in the soil. But I've used that soil for other plants, and I have no problems on those plants. So if anybody has any thoughts on this, I would sure appreciate it if you would leave it in the comment section. I mean, I guess what I do know is there's a slight possibility that there was one mealybug in that one part of the soil that just happened to hatch in that pot, but it just seems kind of an unrealistic thing to happen. So I just don't know. But at any rate, that was that problem, and that's out of my immediate surroundings right now. So hopefully we won't have any more problems with those. I guess on the upside, if I was going to have some kind of bug problem, I'm glad it was mealybugs and not something worse that flies or spreads easily, or like spider mites or something like that. So, all right. So if you have any thoughts on that, please feel free to leave the comment. One of the things I should mention is I started using an organic soil a few months back, and I've never used organic soil before, and I am wondering if that isn't part of the problem here. So if you have any thoughts on that as well, please leave them in the comment section. All right, and so anyway, I want to welcome all my normal viewers. Thank you so much for your support. I so appreciate you guys. And you know, at this time of year, we all want to take an extra moment to say thank you to the people in our lives that make a difference. And so I want to make a special thank you to all of my friends, and especially those in my plant world, and most especially to Suzette from Suzette's Gardens. She has really made a difference in my life, and one of these days I'm going to share my story, and you'll know the details of why that is so. But for right now, it's just suffice it to say that you know, we all have times in our life where we need a special angel, and that was one of my times. So thank you, Suzette. If you, those of you that don't know who Suzette is by now, she's got her own channel, Suzette's Gardens. She's been raising plants since she was a child, and she does both indoor and outdoor, and she's got some amazing plants and ideas and ways to display them. So go check out her channel and help her out, okay? All right, moving along. What you're looking at right now are my purple waffle, and this is the Snow White waffle. This is the dark purple, and as you can see, I mean, the bottoms of these leaves are beautiful purple. They're gorgeous. I had this in a hanging basket, this one, and I almost lost it. And so I decided to put it in this planter that it's in here, and it's underneath my table. I think you can see that, yeah. I have it underneath my table in my living room, the one that my husband made. And we have installed a long grow light that screws to the underside of the table, and it's an LED light. I should specify that, as opposed to the red and blue rays. And she just took off. I mean, her leaves were probably, the bulk of her leaves were actually, it looked much like this plant, only there was a lot more of it. But that was the size of it until I put it under that table, and it really likes it under there. So I got these two. I'm going to put these in a tub just like the one that this one is in, because there's room on both sides. Right now I just had it in these containers, and they dry out so fast. These are heavy drinkers. They love water. And one of the things that happens is they droop, but when they droop, it's usually, they give you very little notice. And I don't know about you, but you know, when I'm constantly staring at my plants and looking at them, and I can tell when something is about to go wrong, usually before it does, and I really need to act on that quicker than I do, because I've created problems for myself by not doing it. And what I mean by that is, there's times when I'm sitting across the room from this plant, and it will, the shine is going off of the leaves, and it's starting to look like maybe it's going to start drooping, and I know that at that point I should get up right away and put water. But I usually don't. I usually wait till the next morning, and then by that time, everything is laying on the side of the pot. Now, I just want to say, these two bunches here are not, this is not from lack of water. This is because they now are starting to trail down, and that's what this plant will do. I've had this before. When they get too heavy on the top, they start to trail. And if that continues to happen, then I'm going to have to try and find a different spot for this, because it's not far. It's probably maybe a foot off the floor, so I don't want it, you know, hanging down on the floor. So we'll see what happens down the road, but for now, I just want to get these two in a planter like this, so that we have, so that they're both the same And we'll have one on one side of the table and one on the other side of the table. And again, these are very easy plants to grow. They're fairly easy to find too. I think I got all of these at Lowe's at one time or another, and almost every time I go there I do see at least one. And they're fairly cheap, or inexpensive I should say. So sometimes that, you know, people, they just don't care for it if it's a very common plant. And I get that. I kind of feel that way about the golden pothos, and I guess, you know, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. If that's a plant that you are in love with, that's wonderful. But for me, it's been around since I was a little kid, and it was in everybody's home. It was such a common plant that it just doesn't hold that same special meaning that other plants do for me. And so that's kind of the analogy I'm using here for these. I know a lot of people just don't care much for these, but I love the purple leaves on them. So, and again, if I didn't already say, these are called Snow White Waffle, Purple Waffle. Okay, so without wasting too much more time, I do have my systemic insect control here. For those of you that follow me, you know that I do use this, and I have been using it, and I'm now using it as a preventative until I know for sure that I have gotten rid of my issues here, because I have lots and lots of plants, and I just can't afford to have them have any kind of insect problem, because I'm not in good health, and I'm not, like I said the other day, I panicked because back in the day, something like that would not have put me into a panic. I would have just set the whole day aside until I got through every plant, and I would have, you know, made sure everything was okay. But I now do not always have the ability to do that. So, and I did address the systemic several times, so I'm not going to go through that again. If you want to hear more about this, and also the cautionary steps that you need to take if you're going to use this, you can see that in past videos. I've pretty much talked about it quite a bit, so I'm not going to go into all that. All right, so in my my bin here, I don't know if you can see that. No, that's okay. You don't need to. You want to see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to put some dirt in here. And for those of you that don't like that term, let me correct myself. I'm going to put some soil mixture in here. And this is a mixture of organic potting soil, and there is a little bit of orchid bark and perlite. And I'm drawing a blank. Cocoa coir. Not much, just a little bit. And depending on what this is kind of my overall mixture. And then depending on what I'm going to be planting, I may add more bark or more cocoa coir, or even stone or sand if it's from the cactus family. So it just depends on what I'm planting. And I try to remember to tell you that when I do, so that you know what I use for each type of plant. I think I'm gonna back you up a little bit because I'm not sure if you are seeing what I'm doing here. Here. I think that's a little better view, I hope. Okay. This is my bucket that I use, and most of you know that already. I do not like to reuse my soil unless it's something that I had recently repotted and it's my soil mixture, and I know that there are no little creepy crawlers in there. Otherwise, when I get these from the store, I like to take off this old dirt. And I know that there's, you know, mixed feelings on that. There are some who say when you get it home you shouldn't disrupt it, and there are others who say that's the first thing I do is repot it. And I just have to say at this point, you know, to each his own. I think there are probably positives and negatives for both, but this is what I do, and I think you can see the roots down there. They're very fine, and so I think that's why when they collapse the way they do, I think it's because of those fine roots. They don't hold a lot of water, so if you have one of these plants and you can see that it's losing its glossiness, that's usually the time to water it. If you wait until they droop, you are definitely going to lose some of the plant, as I just did. These leaves here. If you wait too long and those veins, those roots collapse and dry out, there is no bringing them back after that, so I guess just try not to do that. Okay. Now, I thought I was going to be able to just pick this up and put it in its new home, but it looks like we're going to have to work a little bit harder at getting some of the soil out so that it fits in this pot. And those of you that know me, you know how much I hate doing that. It kills me to disrupt those roots. It's a very light, peaty mixture that came out of. And the organic soil that I'm putting it in was pretty light to begin with, so we're going to be okay there. All right. Now this is the biggest plant. Let's try and get all the roots down in the soil. And that's another thing, folks. These plants like to grow along the top of the soil. Their roots will spread out instead of going down. So they do multiply pretty easily. And I'm just using my hands. I love the feeling of soil on my hands. Something very calming about that for me. I think I might have this a little bit too low. Yeah, gotta raise it up a little bit. And I have to be careful because I tend to I have a habit of getting my soil mixture too close to the top of the pot, and then when I water, I make such a mess. So I'm really trying not to do that. Okay, that's one. I'm taking the soil off the other the other plant, and I'm going to stick that in there too. Excuse me. And that was a much smaller one, so it didn't take as long. Yeah, we just need more soil. Hope you all are having a good Monday so far, and for those of you that celebrate Christmas, I hope that you're ready for it. I know a lot of people are out doing last minute shopping and are very busy this time of year, as I was for many, many years. But I always had the holidays by me for our family, and I really enjoyed it. I loved it. But I'm not able to do that anymore. So my daughter and granddaughter are kind of taking over that part of life, and that's okay too. Starting new traditions. You know, there's something to be said about traditions, and both good and bad. I can remember back when my mother said, we're going to have to start doing something a little different here. This is getting too hard for me. And what we were doing up till that point was my brother, my sister, and their spouses and kids. We'd go over to my mom and dad's, and my dad would have the fireplace going, and he'd be playing Bing Crosby Christmas music, and it was just a very relaxing, warm, wonderful time. And when my mom first talked about doing something different, I was, deep down in my heart, I was upset, because I am very much about tradition. And I just couldn't imagine my Christmas being any other way than the way it was. But you know, over the years, I found myself being very grateful that we had to change it, because when my dad got sick and died, that was hard enough, losing him. It would have been even harder if that is what changed our tradition. But luckily, we had changed it before that, where we were kind of switching things up a little bit each year. So there wasn't that empty chair where my dad used to sit and everybody, you know, missing him. I mean, yes, we missed him terribly, still do. But I feel like I'm rambling again, and I just hope I'm making the point that I'm trying to make that's in my heart. Which is, had we not changed it, I would have been sitting in the chair I usually end up sitting in, and everybody else in the spots they always end up in, and we would have all been staring at that empty recliner that my dad used to sit in. So by changing up the way we did things, we didn't have to look at the empty recliner because it wasn't there. So that helped. And I guess that one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is there are a lot of people out there that are, this is a very, very hard time of year for them for many reasons. Either the loss of a loved one, or maybe they have someone very ill in the hospital. Maybe their child is in children's hospital fighting for their life. Whatever the reason might be. We need to pause and be grateful for what we do have and try to be, I don't know the word, just kind and helpful to others, especially at this time of year, because it's very, very hard for some people. Not for everyone. There are some people that are very strong and not much bothers them and they just move on, and I guess there's something to be said for that too. But you know, I have found even among my friends and family, even the strongest have their breaking points and their sad days and their things that that make them sad. So don't let that exterior fool you. Well, we're almost done here, and soon the holidays will be over too. One of the crazy things going on here where I live in Wisconsin is the weather. We have had for days upper 40s, lower 50s, and this is the end of December. That's just unheard of where I live. So we're grateful for that. I remember many Christmas Eves having to drive to my husband's family, and it's about 45 minutes away, and in either snowstorm or ice storm, or it was, you know, 20 below zero, and we were hoping the car didn't break down on the way there, and that was really every year for most of our life. But now this year it's really warm. Okay, all right, how does that look? I think it looks good. Probably could have gone over to one side a little more, but I kept wanting to fall out of the dirt. So, and it's the way the roots grow. But I think it looks good. I'm going to give her a little water and put her under the table, and I'm hoping to do another plant tour in the very near future, so when I do, you can look for it then, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright. I do make a mess. Now, here's my little dilemma. This is my watermelon peperomia. And those of you that have been following me, you know that I've been having problems with this plant on and off for quite a while. And it's to the point where I'm having problems again. I'm not sure what, if anything, to do with this. I think it needs to go in a little bit bigger pot. But the last time I repotted this, it almost died. I do know for sure that the watermelon peperomia really, really likes to be snug. Their root system likes to be snug in the pot. However, I believe that this is beyond snug, and I want to put it in just a little bit bigger pot. but I'm not sure if I should, because it's got other issues now. And I'm thinking this might be from the cold. I'm not sure. I had this issue once before and I got rid of it, and I don't remember how I got rid of it. Maybe I should go back and rewatch one of my videos. But I am going to put this in just a little bit bigger pot, and then I'm going to spray the whole plant with my mixture of rubbing alcohol and water and about a drop or two of dish soap. That way, if it turns out, if this is a fungus problem, that will take care of it. And if it's not going to hurt this plant. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to repot this here on video. I don't want this video to get too awfully long. But I did want to show this to you as an update. And as you can see, hopefully you can see, there are all kinds of new shoots coming up. Almost every single one of these stems has at least one new shoot. So I know it's healthy to the point where it's providing new growth, but I don't know. It seems to me, I think last time I fixed this with Epsom salt. So maybe I'll try that instead. That just crossed my mind. That was the same issue I had with my the plant from my dad's father's wake, the peace lily, and I'm treating that right now with Epsom salt too. And that I just use about a tablespoon of Epsom salt into a gallon of distilled water, and make sure it's dissolved really good so I don't end up with a big chunk of it on one plant. And I'm going to set that aside and just use that for the few plants that I need to water with that. But I think that's what I'm going to do. But I am going to repot it because I'm pretty sure that this is really, really snug in here. And I think it needs just a little bit more room. And one of the reasons I say that is because I'm watering it every day. And that's usually a sure sign that it needs to be repotting. So I am going to do that, but I'm not going to do it on film, or I'm not going to, video it, record it. But I will keep you posted on this one. One of the things I am going to do too is I did take off a healthy leaf, the healthiest leaf that was on there, and I'm going to propagate this. And it does have some browning on the back, but I don't think that's going to hurt it. So, alright, I'm going to take this pot and fill it with soil. And we're going to need some water here. Oh, I knocked into the camera, my apologies. Okay. Just let this go down a little. As you can see, the soil was extremely dry. And yeah, I'm playing in the mud. It's okay. Alright. I'm gonna need to get a spoon. I'm going to take and cut this right here. And then I'm going to cut it in half. And then we're going to stick it in the soil. And then I'm going to put it into a large plastic bag. That seems to be the best way nowadays to propagate, well, certain plants anyways. I do water propagation as well. And I do soil propagation. It just depends on the plant, and you know what? Sometimes it just depends on the mood I'm in. I don't always do the same thing each time because I don't have to. There's more than one way to do things in the plant world. Okay, that's pretty damp now. And it doesn't have to be soaking wet because I'm going to have this in a baggie, and that's going to hold the moisture in. And I'm doing this because I am so afraid I'm going to lose this plant. I've been struggling with this for a while. So I'm going to try to see if I can start a new one here. Well, and I'll show you this when I get the other one in. I know that's probably hard to see from there. Just about maybe a third of the leaf covered, if that. You don't want to put too much on. You don't want to take a chance on it rotting. And it's got to do that photosynthesis thing, because if you want to get roots, cut side down. And this is why my fingernails are always dirty, because I'm always playing in the dirt. But that's okay. I like it. And I know a lot of other people that do too, so I'm not alone in that. Alright. We're going to just leave this in this tray to get a little wet there and let it soak up whatever it's going to soak up. Well, maybe about 15-20 minutes. And then I'm going to take this out of here and I'm going to put it in a baggie. And we're going to close it up. Not completely though, because you want some air to get in there. And then I'm going to put it in a bright spot so it gets sunlight. And let's hope that I get 2 new plants out of this. That way, if this one does meet its demise, and I hope not, but in case it does, I'll have another one started. Otherwise, I mean, look at the size of this. You know, it was doing so well. I don't know. We'll see what happens after I use the Epsom salt and after I repot this one. And I'll give you an update on that later. Okay, and I do have other videos coming. I've got a couple interesting ones. I have a big tray with a euphorbia plant that a client gave to me quite a few years back, and that thing has just gotten out of control, and I added stuff to it, and that really needs to be completely redone. And I've got cacti in there, and oh, just all different things. So that's going to be a whole separate video. And then, well, I don't want to give it away, but I've got a few planned. So do come back and join me in my endeavors. And as always, if you have comments to make, please feel free. I just ask that you be kind, but definitely feel free to comment, and I love to hear from you. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I guess we will see you later. Alrighty, bye-bye now.